Was still showing my findings when all 12 of them stood up at once, like they'd rehearsed it. My voice just stopped mid-sentence about the pacemaker failures I'd found. "We're done listening to his failures," Brendan Ashworth announced. The COO had this tone like he was talking to a child who'd been acting up. "This presentation is wasting everyone's time. You know that sound expensive suits make when people are pissed off and trying to look dignified." That's what filled the room as they grabbed their tablets and headed for the door. Nobody looked at me. Nobody said anything else. Just this coordinated silent treatment designed to make me feel about 2 inches tall. "The data's right there," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "These devices are killing people. Our products meet every FDA standard." Veronica Caldwell cut in. She's the VP of Operations, always smiling like she knows something you don't. "Maybe you should think about whether you're really cut out for this kind of work." That's when they all walked out. 12 executives, the entire leadership team. Left me standing there with my hand still pointing at the screen showing proof that 18 people had died from preventable pacemaker failures. Maxwell Thornton was the last one out. He stopped at the door, hand on the light switch. "Don't bother finishing up, Garrett. Nobody's going to read your report anyway." Click, lights off. Just me and the glow from my presentation about dead patients. I sat there for maybe 30 seconds. My heart was pounding at first, but then it settled into something colder, more focused. This was exactly what I'd expected them to do. What I'd been counting on, actually. I pulled out my phone and called the number I'd saved weeks ago, the one I hoped I wouldn't need. "They did exactly what you said they would," I said when she picked up. "All of them," Agent Rachel Vance asked. "Every single one, and I got it all recorded." "Give me 4 hours." I hung up and looked at that data still glowing on the screen. Failure analysis reports, cover-up memos, altered test results, everything they didn't want anyone to see. My name's Garrett Palmer. I'm 49 years old. 4 months ago, I was just the Senior Quality Assurance Director at Apex Cardiovascular Systems. We make pacemakers, the kind of devices that keep people alive without them even thinking about it. I wasn't always the guy who pissed off powerful people. I spent 15 years in aerospace engineering, working on flight control systems where one little screw-up brings down a whole plane. When my dad died from a defective pacemaker 8 years back, I switched to medical devices. Figured if I was going to obsess over quality control, might as well do it where it could prevent what happened to him. I had a good reputation in the industry. The guy who fixed problems without burning down companies. Someone who found solutions instead of just pointing out what was wrong. That's why they hired me. "We need someone with your background," Brendan told me in the final interview. Real friendly smile. "Just some quality control issues that need fresh eyes." My predecessor was Walter Hoffman, supposedly left for health reasons. His team acted weird whenever I asked about him. When I wanted to see his documentation, I got a lot of vague answers about his unique filing system that somehow never got transferred properly. First red flag came during the facility tour. Diego Santos, he's a quality tech with 12 years at the company, showed me around. Everything sounded rehearsed until we got to the device testing lab. I asked about validation protocols and his eyes shot to this camera in the corner before he answered. "We follow company procedures," he said. You could hear how careful he was being. Week later, I'm looking at device failure reports that don't match what we're telling the FDA. Pacemakers failing critical tests but somehow getting shipped anyway with approval signatures. When I brought this up with my team, they all studied their shoes like they were the most interesting things they'd ever seen. "Stick to established protocols," Brendan said when I asked for a meeting. "The previous guy overcomplicated everything. Next day, there's a $75,000 bonus in my account. No explanation, just money I never agreed to take." I sent it back and kept digging. The picture got clearer fast. Our flagship pacemaker line had software bugs that were literally stopping people's hearts. Testing procedures had been changed to hide the problems. Patient incident reports were getting buried somewhere they'd never see daylight. "It's not a product issue," Veronica explained when I showed her what I'd found. Private meeting, just the two of us. "It's about regulatory interpretation. Every industry has acceptable margins, not when the margin is people dying," I said. She slid this folder across her desk. New contract, $200,000 salary bump, and some confidentiality clause that would have made a lawyer nervous. "Smart people benefit from being flexible with regulations," she said, tapping the signature line. "We take care of team players. I took the contract. Told her I'd think about it. Kept investigating." That night, I got an anonymous email with safety reports, the real ones, not the sanitized versions we'd sent to the FDA. Just one line from whoever sent it. Walter wasn't sick. Morning of the big presentation, Diego cornered me in the parking garage. "They're setting you up," he whispered, checking over his shoulder every 2 seconds. "Everyone's been told your report is just attention-seeking. Brendan's already got your termination papers ready. Why tell me this?" "Because Walter tried to do the right thing too. His voice cracked a little. What they did to him wasn't right. He walked away before I could ask more questions. But I saw that same scared look in his eyes that I'd been seeing in everyone on my team. That's when I knew for sure what I had to do. Before the meeting, I made one change to my presentation. Took out the slide with the worst evidence, the one showing how they'd deliberately hidden the Boston incident from 2 years ago. Saved that for something else. The call I made after they walked out wasn't to a reporter or some lawyer. It was to Agent Rachel Vance from the FDA's Office of Criminal Investigations. We'd been working together for months. Everything from today is uploaded, I told her. The walkout happened exactly like we thought. They even mentioned Boston on record. Perfect, she said. I could hear typing in the background. Maxwell specifically said handle it like Boston when they were discussing the cover-up. That's the connection we needed. How long until you move? Stay put. Act normal if anyone comes back. We're already in position. For 4 months, I'd been building a federal case while they thought they were breaking me down. It started when I found Walter's encrypted files. The guy hadn't left for health reasons. He'd been documenting the same problems I was finding. His final report disappeared the day he suddenly got sick. When I tracked down his wife, she told me the truth. Walter took a settlement with a gag order after they threatened him with fraud charges, but before he left, he'd reached out to Rachel Vance. That's how I got her contact. Walter stopped responding 4 months ago. Rachel told me when I first called, company said medical leave, he's not sick, he's scared. They threatened to destroy him if he didn't shut up. That's when we started working together. Couldn't go at them head on. They had too many lawyers, too much money. We needed them to hang themselves, preferably on tape. After leaving the meeting room, I walked back to my office, checked my watch 2 hours until Rachel's team would show up. The hallways felt different now, like I was seeing everything for the last time. My office door was open. Veronica was sitting in my chair looking at my computer screen. That was quite a show, she said without looking up, though I can't say I'm surprised.
I put my briefcase down, something you wanted to add that you couldn't say in front of everyone. She smiled, not the friendly kind.
You know, Garrett, I argued for hiring you. Your reputation for solving problems impressed me, but you completely misunderstood the job. She stood up, smoothing down her skirt. Your job was to fix the perception problem, not create a bigger one. My job is quality assurance. Your job was whatever we said it was, and now it's over. She moved toward the door. Your position's been terminated. Effective immediately. Security will escort you out in 20 minutes, I understand. Something about how calm I sounded made her stop. This isn't a negotiation, Garrett. You've made enemies of people who don't forget, people with connections across this entire industry. Sounds like a threat. It's reality. Your career ended the moment you decided to go against us. She paused at the doorway. I actually respect your principles. They're just worth about as much as tissue paper against 12 executives who all agree you're done. After she left, I opened my desk drawer. Inside was a recording device that had been capturing every conversation in this office for the past 12 weeks. I slipped it into my pocket just as my phone buzzed. Text from Rachel. Ahead of schedule. 4 agents arriving now. Lobby in 10. I gathered my personal stuff, just enough to look like I was cooperating. Walking through the department, my team watched with faces ranging from sorry for you to flat out scared. Some knew what was coming. Others thought they were watching my final walk of shame. Diego caught up with me at the elevator. They're telling everyone you blamed production for design problems, he whispered. Brendan's already announcing who's replacing you. Interesting timing, I said. What happens now? The elevator opened. Sometimes you let people think they've won before they find out they've lost. The lobby was busy with normal afternoon traffic when the glass doors opened. 4 people in dark suits walked in, led by Rachel herself. Her badge was already out as she approached the security desk. FDA Office of Criminal Investigations, she announced loud enough for everyone to hear. We have warrants for company records and employee interviews. The security guard looked like he was about to pass out, started reaching for his phone. Within minutes, the whole lobby turned into controlled chaos. Employees stopped to stare. People started pulling out their phones. Someone from legal came running down, demanding to see paperwork. Then Brendan showed up, red-faced, barking orders at some junior attorney who looked like he wanted to crawl under a rock. When Brendan saw me, his expression went from angry to suspicious real fast. He walked over trying to block my view of what was happening. I hope you know what you've done, he said quietly. This little tantrum is going to destroy more than just your career. That sounds concerning. Maybe you should share those thoughts with the agents upstairs. His face went tight. You signed confidentiality agreements. Everything you've shared constitutes theft of company property. Everything I've shared went through proper FDA reporting channels. Nothing outside standard regulatory requirements. You could actually watch it hit him. I hadn't leaked anything to reporters or competitors. I just followed the mandatory reporting rules they'd been ignoring for years. "You have no idea what you're dealing with," he said, voice getting lower. "This company has survived worse than one disgruntled engineer." I smiled at him. "I'm not disgruntled, Brendan. I'm doing exactly what you hired me to do. Making sure quality standards get met," actually said a voice behind him. "Mr. Palmer will be staying to help with our investigation." Rachel was standing there, badge visible. "We have questions about the presentation that got interrupted earlier." What happened next was like watching a machine take apart a building. Agents spread through the office, securing servers and documents. Executives got pulled into separate rooms for interviews. Employees stood around watching years of careful lies fall apart in real time. I ended up in a conference room, different one from where they'd humiliated me, answering questions and filling in details as Rachel's team built their case. Through the glass walls, I could see whiteboards getting covered with timelines and connections, people pointing at documents, the kind of organized chaos that happens when smart people are putting together a puzzle. At 4:30, Maxwell got escorted out of his office. Looked like he'd seen a ghost. By 5:15, 8 more executives followed, not in handcuffs, but definitely not in charge anymore. When they walked past my conference room, Brendan caught my eye. The look on his face, finally understanding that the engineer they dismissed as incompetent had been systematically destroying their operation, almost made the 4 months of stress worth it. But this was just the beginning. Next morning felt surreal. I got dressed like it was any other day, gray suit, regular tie, hair combed back. Today wasn't about impressing anyone. It was about watching justice actually happen for once. The news vans were already there when I got to headquarters, held back behind temporary barriers. Inside, the executive floor was like a ghost town. All those glass offices that used to buzz with activity stood empty. By noon, company stock trading got suspended. By 2 p.m., 9 resignation letters came in. By 4 p.m., federal prosecutors announced preliminary charges against 7 executives. More expected soon. 6 months later, I'm sitting in my new office as an independent consultant, helping the FDA identify compromised medical devices across the industry. My phone rings, unknown number. "Is this Garrett Palmer?" Speaking. "This is Dr. Martinez at Houston Methodist. We've been following the news about your former company. Our cardiology department wants to talk about bringing you on as Chief Quality Officer." Interested, I leaned back in my chair. "Very much so." See, what nobody understood, not the executives, not the media covering the story, not even most of the FBI agents working the case, was that this had never been about getting back at the people who humiliated me. Sure, that felt good, but the real point was stopping the 18 deaths from becoming 18, or 1,800. When they walked out of that meeting thinking their united front made them untouchable, they were actually giving me the last piece of evidence I needed. Their synchronized arrogance on record. The final proof that this wasn't about honest mistakes or regulatory confusion. This was about powerful people who thought they could decide which safety rules applied to them. The revenge wasn't watching them get arrested or seeing their stock price collapse. The real revenge was using their destruction to build something better, making sure this never happened to another family like mine. 3 weeks after the arrests, I got a call from Walter Hoffman's wife. "I wanted to thank you," she said. Walter's been able to sleep through the night for the first time in 2 years. Knowing that what he started actually meant something, he deserves most of the credit. "I just finished what he began." "No," she said. "You did what he couldn't. You found a way to beat them." That conversation stuck with me, because Walter and I weren't the only ones who tried to do the right thing in this industry. We were just the first ones who figured out how to win. The congressional hearings started 8 months later. I testified for 3 hours about how medical device companies manipulate safety data, how they use regulatory complexity to hide problems, how they silence employees who try to speak up. The committee chair asked me what needed to change. "Stop letting companies police themselves," I said. "Every device that fails and hurts, someone should trigger automatic independent investigation. No more company-controlled incident reports. No more letting manufacturers decide what counts as a problem." "Is that realistic?" one congressman asked. "More realistic than trusting people who profit from cutting corners to honestly report when they cut too many." New FDA regulations came out 14 months after that. Mandatory independent safety monitoring for all cardiovascular devices. Whistleblower protections with real teeth. Criminal penalties for executives who knowingly conceal safety problems. The Apex cardiovascular case became the textbook example of how to prosecute corporate safety cover-ups. Law schools teach it, business ethics courses analyze it. Medical device companies train their compliance teams on it. But for me, the most important outcome was simpler. The pacemaker recall prevented an estimated 400 additional device failures. 400 families who didn't have to go through what mine did. 400 people who kept living because someone finally held a corporation accountable. That's worth more than any personal satisfaction from watching powerful people face consequences for their actions. Though I'll admit that part felt pretty good too. Sometimes people ask if I'd do it again, knowing what it cost. The stress, the career disruption, the months of not knowing if the plan would work. The answer's always the same in a heartbeat, because here's what I learned from this whole experience. The system only works when someone makes it work. Regulations only matter when someone enforces them. Justice only happens when someone fights for it. Most people think you can't beat a corrupt corporation, that individuals don't stand a chance against institutional power and unlimited legal budgets. And if you try to fight them straight up, that's probably true. But if you're patient enough to build a real case, smart enough to use their arrogance against them, and lucky enough to find allies who believe in doing the right thing, you can accomplish more than you ever thought possible. The key is remembering that you're not doing it for revenge. You're doing it for everyone who comes after you. The industry changed faster than anyone expected. Within 18 months, 3 more major medical device companies faced federal investigations. Turns out our case opened floodgates. Employees who'd been sitting on safety concerns for years suddenly had a roadmap for how to report problems without destroying their careers. I started getting calls from engineers at other companies, always the same story. They'd found something wrong. Management told them to keep quiet. They didn't know what to do, document everything. I'd tell them, find the right federal contact. Build a real case before you make any moves. And remember, you're not doing this for revenge. You're doing it to prevent harm. Some listened, some didn't. The ones who followed the process usually succeeded. The ones who tried to go it alone usually got crushed. Dr. Martinez at Houston Methodist turned out to be serious about that job offer. 6 months later, I was their new chief quality officer, building safety protocols that actually worked. Real oversight, independent testing, zero tolerance for data manipulation. First month on the job, I caught a vendor trying to ship defective surgical instruments. Called the FDA immediately. No politics. No committee meetings, just direct action. This is how it should work everywhere, Dr. Martinez said when I briefed him on what happened. It can, I told him. Just takes people willing to do the right thing instead of the easy thing. The congressional testimony led to more consulting work. Hospitals wanting to audit their device safety. Legal firms building cases against negligent manufacturers. Even some companies genuinely trying to clean up their acts. I learned something interesting doing all this consulting. Most safety problems aren't caused by evil executives plotting to hurt people. They're caused by ordinary people making small compromises that add up over time, a testing protocol that's probably good enough, an incident report that gets filed next week instead of today, a safety concern that can wait until after the quarterly earnings call. None of those decisions seem dangerous by themselves, but put them all together and you get devices that fail when people need them most. The solution isn't complicated. It's just hard. You have to decide that safety comes first. Not safety plus profit, not safety when convenient. Safety first, period. That's what I tell the engineering students when I guest lecture at universities. They always ask how to handle pressure from management to cut corners. Remember why you became an engineer, I say, to solve problems and make things work better, not to help companies make more money by ignoring problems. But what if speaking up costs you your job? Someone always asks. What if staying quiet costs someone their life? That usually ends the discussion. 5 years after the Apex case, I got invited to speak at Walter Hoffman's memorial service. He died from a heart attack, the real kind, not the corporate pressure kind that had driven him out of the industry. His wife asked me to talk about his legacy. I stood up in front of maybe 50 people and told them Walter had saved more lives by documenting safety problems than most doctors save in their entire careers. He couldn't finish what he started, I said, but he made it possible for someone else to finish it. That's how real change happens. One person plants the seed. Someone else waters it. Eventually something good grows. After the service, Walter's daughter came up to me. She's an engineer too, working for a renewable energy company. My dad always said the hardest part wasn't finding problems, she told me. It was finding people brave enough to fix them. Your father was one of those people, I said. That's why we won. She nodded. He'd be proud of what you accomplished. We accomplished it. He just didn't live to see it finished. The Apex executives served their sentences, mostly 2 to 4 years for the key players. Brendan got the longest sentence because he'd been the ringleader. When he got out, nobody in the industry would hire him. Last I heard, he was selling insurance in Florida. I don't feel sorry for him, but I don't celebrate his downfall either. The whole point was never about punishing specific people. It was about changing how the system works, and it worked. Device recalls happen faster now. Safety reports get independent review. Employees have real protection when they report problems. Companies think twice before putting profits ahead of patient safety, not because executives suddenly grew consciences, because the cost of getting caught finally outweighs the benefit of cutting corners. That's the only language corporations really understand. Make the right choice profitable and the wrong choice expensive. Do that consistently, and you get better outcomes for everyone. The most rewarding part of this whole experience wasn't watching corrupt executives face justice. It was getting emails from engineers who used our case as a template to expose problems at their companies. Hundreds of safety issues that got fixed because someone followed our example. Each one represents patients who didn't get hurt, families who didn't lose someone they loved, people who kept living because someone else decided to do the right thing. That's the real victory. Not the headlines or the prison sentences or the congressional testimony. Just ordinary people going home safe to their families because someone else refused to stay quiet about a preventable problem. If you've made it this far in my story, I want to thank you for listening. Standing up to powerful institutions isn't easy, and it's not always successful. But when it works, the impact goes far beyond any individual case. Your professional integrity matters more than you realize. The standards you maintain, the corners you refuse to cut, the problems you insist on solving, these decisions affect real people in real ways. Every industry has safety issues that powerful people would rather ignore. Every workplace has problems that someone needs to address. Maybe you're the person who's supposed to address them. Maybe you're already seeing things that concern you. Maybe you're waiting for someone else to take the first step. Don't wait. The people depending on your industry to work properly can't afford for you to wait. And the tools to make real change happen are available if you're willing to use them systematically and strategically. Remember, you're not just fighting for yourself. You're fighting for everyone who comes after you.